Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather coming at you with another update. In this update, we talked about my upcoming hurricane season forecast. So before I do get started, if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. And I do ask you to share this video with your friends and family on social media. All right, so let's get started. First of all, this is the updated version from the Outlook I put out about a month ago. So hurricane season officially starts June the 1st, but they already announced that the National Hurricane Center is going to be issuing advisories as early as May 15th this year, 2 weeks earlier. So that's only 6 weeks away, guys. So I definitely want to give you my updated version on how I think this season is going to play out before the actual season starts. So let me kind of walk you through. Here's the overall sea surface temperatures as of this morning, April the 2nd. And we've been in a weak La Nina, and I think we're going to continue into a weak La Nina, trending a little bit more towards an Enzo neutral. We can see those well below average sea surface temperatures out here in the equatorial Pacific. And we have those well above average temperatures starting to creep into the Gulf of Mexico here, off into the Atlantic. And then the main development region is fairly cool. If we kind of zoom in, you can actually see where that cold front came through the southeast the other day. And that's projecting some, below average temperatures here just along the coast. But these waters are already pretty warm for this time of year already. So I do feel like we are going to have yet another active season ahead. So let's take a look at the overall Enzo outlook. You can definitely see we've been in a predominantly a La Nina, and we're trending towards a weak La Nina to an Enzo neutral. You can look at the graph here. The blue is La Nina, the gray is your Enzo neutral, and then the red is your El Nino here. So predominantly, when you have a little bit more La Nina conditions, you have less shear with higher sea surface temperatures. There's a little bit more susceptible for more rotation in the atmosphere, upward rising motion. So you have a little bit more susceptible of storm development out in the tropical Atlantic. And as we go deeper into hurricane season, especially as we hit towards peak season, we tend to trend down into the Enzo neutral, but we kind of bottom out as soon as we kind of start into the hurricane season in June. And then we kind of trend upward with that La Nina starting to take over again as we go deeper into the peak season, which is essentially August, September, and October, just about right there in line with a little bit higher La Nina versus a Enzo neutral. But you can look at the El Nino, which causes typically more shear in the Atlantic and less tropical storm development. They only have a 10%, guys. So I'm not expecting an El Nino to occur whatsoever. So more than likely, this weak La Nina is going to continue all the way through, the spring, the summer, and into and deepen again into the more of a weak La Nina as we go into the peak season of hurricane season. Now, last year, a lot of it had to do with this Bermuda high. So, the La Nina actually peaked, and that's why we had 30 named storms. It actually peaked on, September the 10th, the peak of hurricane season, and the bulk of our storms were in September and October. So, and a lot of it had to do with this strong high pressure as well, way out here in Bermuda. And these storms predominantly trended, some of them trended to kind of away from Florida. So Florida was unscathed because of this higher, stronger Bermuda high last year. A lot of them trended well south here and went into Honduras area before they curved up. And then but this year, I do feel this is going to be a little bit more a weaker high, and it's actually going to be centered closer to the United States out here into the Northeast. So as these systems come off the main development region, they're going to be spinning up, and then some of them are going to go out to sea, but some of them is going to curve up, and it puts more the eastern seaboard, I do feel, in line this year more than last year. But also it actually puts more in line is Florida, because I do think these systems, with the development of this Bermuda high up here, is going to swing around, and it definitely, I think, puts Florida more at risk this year. So I would say your favored highest impacts from this year is anywhere going to be from New Orleans to North Carolina. In this zone right here, this is my highest impact area that I do feel like tropical storm hurricane development is going to be taking place. Now, if we take a look at the European seasonal modeling, as far as precipitation, just for the next 3 months into April, May, and June, these are going into your wettest months of the year. And right now, the outlook is looking like a little bit drier than normal, precipitation over those next 3 months. But as we trend a little bit going into deeper into tropical storm season, as it starts in June timeframe, you can definitely see some of the above average rainfall starting to hint off into the Florida and off the southeast coast. And I do feel there's a little bit more of a trajectory that storms are kind of hinting and favoring these areas into the southeast, and it kind of just intensifies as we go deeper into hurricane season with a little bit more above average rainfall, hinting at, again, from New Orleans to essentially maybe the Carolina, off the Carolina coast here. So this whole area I do feel is going to be your highest impact zone, and that just continues as we go into deeper into hurricane season, and that trend goes all the way through September as well. So another aspect would be your temperatures. I do feel we're going to have above average spring, almost a well above average summer. I do feel like we're going to have a very hot summer here in the United States. And here's the temperatures by August. And typically when you have a hotter summer, a lot of the times when you have systems underneath, that causes divergence underneath, or helps lower the pressures out here in the Caribbean, into the Gulf, into the tropical Atlantic. And that also helps intensifies these storms as well. So that's the outlook for August, the latest Kinship models. And the same thing for September. It still has those above average temperatures into the United States, would cause that divergence underneath going into peak season. And as we go into October, kind of still implies the same thing. And more of a favored area here, from Louisiana to more likely the Carolina up the eastern seaboard, of your higher impact zones for that area. Now, earlier on in the season, now let's take a look at the overall vertical velocity index for the next 46 days. So there's some hints of tropical storm development. You can actually see just this week, we actually have, this is our region down here. You need what they call upward rising motion for storm development, and we do hint at some upward rising motion just between now and April the 6th. So I'll show you why it's implying that. But going forward, there's not much happening the rest of April and going into May. But our little bit more favorable time frame would be, getting in towards the middle of May. And I do feel like we're going to have a little bit earlier season this year from some sort of tropical development as we go into May. And if I had to take a stab at it, it would be right around the middle of May for our first tropical storm development. So that's something I've got my eye on. But yeah, in the immediate term, we do actually have this little low pressure system, out here by April the 4th, just a couple days from now. This area is actually spinning out here way out in the tropical Atlantic, but this is not supposed to be gaining tropical storm characteristics. And so you do see that upward rising motion that we kind of hinted at, but this storm system will continue to weaken and shift off to the Azores, and will not be a threat to land or form into a tropical storm development whatsoever. And here's the outlook for the next 2 weeks. from the latest climate prediction center, it's not implying anything of tropical nature to form in the next 2 weeks. So I do not feel like that system's going to be forming. So here's your names. Now, what they changed this year is they're not going to be doing the Greek alphabet this year. So they came up with if they happen to go through all the names, and you can see the 2021 hurricane names all the way through W. So if they actually go through W this year, this will be your supplementary list that's taken that's no longer going to be the Greek alphabet. So here's a secondary list they're going to be utilizing going forward if they happen to get past Wanda, which I do feel like that's going to happen with my latest outlook. So going forward, here's the normal trajectory of storms and where they form and where they go from in June, July, August, September, and October. Earlier on the season, you typically look for a little bit more in-close development, more into the Gulf of Mexico, swinging up through Florida. As we go through July, this impacts a little bit more of the East Coast, a little bit more of into the Gulf of Mexico. As we get deeper into hurricane season, this is August, then the main development region typically comes a little bit more into play because you have a lot of African dust out ahead of it to begin with, out when the season originally starts. But as we go deeper into hurricane season, that becomes less of a factor, and some of these storms are able to keep their strength and head towards the United States, and especially as we go towards end of September, and this is your most peak month. Your favorite time frame for development is from August 15th to October 15th, which is about 62% of the storm development for that favored time frame. And as you can definitely see by October, most of the storms get pushed away from the United States, only leaving potentially maybe Florida and some of the East Coast. So that kind of gives you those favorite areas. But so now let's talk about my outlook. So here's the map I kind of put together. I do feel like there's going to be a lot of African dust coming off earlier in the season. There's going to be a lot of shear out here in the main development region. I'm not really expecting a very active season for the main development region out here. And as they do come off the coast, the smaller the storm, the weaker the storm there is, those storms are going to be able to turn out to sea. And the stronger storms, the little bit heavier impact storms, they're able to get its act together off the African coast. Those tend to hold together and to direct into the Lesser Antilles and getting into the Caribbean. But like I mentioned, I do feel like this Bermuda high is going to be centered a little bit closer to the United States, especially off the coast of the Northeast. And so as these systems come across, it's going to be able to go around that high and put a little bit more of the East Coast more in threat this year than so other years. And then once these systems travel a little bit further south, that's definitely going to be putting more Florida in line this year versus other years, especially the west coast of Florida. I do feel is going to be your higher impact zones. And like I mentioned, anywhere from New Orleans to, say, the Carolinas is going to be your highest favored area of highest impact zones for the United States. This is typically one of those years I do feel Texas is not going to be a favored area for impact. That's just my personal opinion, because the way this Bermuda high is going to be centered and the trajectory of these storms coming across, I don't feel Texas is going to have an impact this year. It's going to be more towards Louisiana, getting off the southeast, getting into Florida, getting off the Carolina coast, going into North Carolina area. So those are the areas I'm a little bit more concerned about this year, especially into the Caribbean. These areas down here are going to be a little bit more susceptible, say Jamaica, Cuba, going into the Dominican Republic. These areas are going to be a little bit higher favored this year versus last year. And these areas down here are going to be a lot less favored this year because of the positioning of the Bermuda High. And here's my official forecast. I upped a couple storms. The original forecast was anywhere from 16 to 20 named storms. I'm going with 18 to 22 storms this year. Now, a lot of it had to do with, I do feel there's going to be at least 5 storms possibly that are going to be called storms way out here in the Atlantic that, due to modern technology that we have nowadays, these storms would probably not have been named many years ago, but they're going to be named now. So that's why I do feel, even though the storms say, hey, we're going to be up to maybe possibly 22 storms, I do feel like 5 of those are going to be named out here that are going to be weak and, no threat to land. They're not going to be a storm for very long, maybe a day or two, if that. So I do feel, but the highest impact areas, these hurricanes are going to be anywhere from 9 to 11 hurricanes. And I do feel like 3 to 6 of those hurricanes would be major hurricanes. And as far as like landfalling hurricanes to the United States, I do feel like we're going to have anywhere from 3 to 6 landfalling hurricanes this year. And then major impact landfalls would be anywhere from 2 to 4 hurricanes this year. So that is my latest trajectory on how I feel like this hurricane season is going to play out. I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.